back from since I said yes, I think that sounds like a great idea. But I also want to have our draft in better shape before we do that. Because I think they're at an even earlier stage than we are, to be honest. But I think it makes sense. And just so you know, you're on mute. And it's you know, I really am not sure why they want to do it in parallel, other than the fact, as we talked early on, given the scope of a thing like this, it might make sense to pursue a truly regional solution as opposed to a city by city, town by town approach. But if we do that, I think one of my recommendations to them is have the city of Albany be the lead community for it, to sort of coordinate things fanning out from here. Similar to what they did with the Answers program many years back for trash, let's do this for tech. You know, one, I think we're better positioned to. And I think we have more resources potentially than any of the towns do. The other thing to consider is, if they take that approach, create it as a separate broadband authority similar to the water authority. So then, okay, we now move beyond just here. It's a quasi-governmental approach that can do its own fee, that can do its own taxing, qualifying that can bond, and then work with the towns to come up with the contracts they need to make that happen. That may put us in a better position for grants, would be my guess. Certainly with the feds. But it's a thing for us to think about. Martin, is that you at the phone? Because I can't tell.
Yes, it is me.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's see. We're waiting on a couple more people.
Craig, I don't know if you saw, but Diana said that she's running a little late, but she will be joining.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so yeah, I hadn't seen that one yet. Let me just do a little shift around here. I'll put you guys over here, and then I can get back over here and see what's going on. Yep, yeah, her email just came in. Okay. Okay. All right. So if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and she gets in, well, when Diana joins, I think we'd have quorum. Right now, we're just about there. So let's think about that. As I say, Martin, do you have any update from your team, or are you guys pretty set?
Not really much of an update. I think we're kind of like, waiting for you guys' feedback on our initial draft.
Right. Okay. I will have something for you within the next couple days from me personally. And we were all just saying that it's just been a heck of a month. And that's not an excuse, just an explanation. But I think that we can get together to get some feedback to you. I mean, I liked what I saw. I read through it once, but I want to read through it again.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yep. Yeah. Basically, as soon as we get feedback and stuff, I think we'll, start to meet back up again and stuff and see how we can incorporate any of your suggestions or comments and such on it.
I think that makes sense. I know that from, there's Diana. She's joining now. Let's see. Okay, so now we have quorum. Diana, hey. You're on mute, just so you know.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep, there you go. I say, did you hear back from the planning department at all?
Not as of yet. I was going to ask if probably we can just submit a request on behalf of the group instead of me as an individual, even though I did identify myself as being a part of the commission.
Right. Jess, can you assist us with that? Because it sounds like we might need to give the planning department a bit of a nudge.
Yeah, I can reach out to them. Yeah, I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, please explain to them that this is priority, because we do have to have the preliminary report so submitted by the middle of next month.
Okay, will do.
And I mean, we can always note that part of the issue we have with preparing that part of the report is that we're waiting on a response from the planning department, but I don't think the planning department wants the mayor to read that note.
Right.
Would be my guess. So, any assistance that they can provide, realizing, of course, they are insanely busy. I mean, we all get that. This is building season, so I'm sure they're swamped. But still, Dana, do you know about how long ago you sent that request over?
Let me take a look at my note.
Sure. Just because that might help Jess with Jess to help them go back and find it in their.
Yeah, Diana, did you originally sent an email, correct?
Correct, yes. It's the week of like April 17th.
Okay.
If you're able to find that email, can you forward it to me?
Sure,
Okay, thank you.
And Dave, can you CC me on that as well, please?
sure I
Just
will.
just because I'll follow up with Chief and a couple people. Let's see if we can get a nudge coming from the council side too. Okay. All right. So just to bring you up to speed with what we've been talking about so far. Martin's team is just waiting on feedback from all this on the draft report that they put up on the shared site. So if we can get our feedback to him, I would hope by middle of next week, that would be good. And then they'll work on meeting and incorporating any ideas or any suggestions that people have. The benchmarking team is going to meet this coming week again, just to finish up and draft up our piece. That's Josh and Ed and I. Jeff's been working on a framework for the report that he's going to put up on the shared site for us to look at and start to plug things into. Caitlin isn't here, and she's temporarily unavailable. She's dealing with a family matter, but she should be, from what she said, probably at our next meeting. And I'll touch base with her. I told her not to worry about it. What we'll do is when we get our pieces in, that'll help her focus what she needs to do for the legal piece. And then we'll see where we're at from there. And then your team's piece, if you guys get the data that you need from the planning department, I'd say put a thing out on the shared space and we'll take a look at it like we did with Martin's.
Okay,
And we'll do the same thing with the benchmarking team piece. Jeff, I know that you had that you were heading up a team as well. Not much to do there yet, I wouldn't think, until these pieces are in place. So you and Caitlin are sort of in the same boat. Where are we at once we see this? Partnership sources would be something that could maybe be worked on preliminarily.
Yeah, and I think, excuse me, Craig, sorry to interrupt you. I believe that Caitlin's also on that team with me, and I've been kind of compiling a list as I go. So I'll circle back with her when she's available again. And as you said, we can start to firm that up, I think.
Yeah, from what she said, I'm thinking she may be a little clearer by next week, but more likely later in the week. We can talk about that offline. Because you and I and she should probably meet from a leadership point of view, just to sort of see where things are at and map out next steps.
Definitely.
Trying to think. That's about all that I have for right now. The other thing I said is I had a communication from, well, someone put me in touch with and put them in touch with me, the chair for the county for the county's broadband effort. which is Kevin O'Connor.
Okay, yes.
And I'd said to him, certainly I'd love to get together with you at some point to talk about what our groups are doing. And I haven't heard back from him on that as far as because I said just give me dates and times to work it out. So I would think they've been pretty busy. I think they're at an earlier stage than we are. But I also think it may feed into something that we talked about as a group early on, which may be that it might make sense to look for a regional solution to the broadband problem,
Mm-hmm.
where the city of Albany, but my suggestion in that case to them would be have the city of Albany have the city be the lead municipality in a joint effort, because we're better positioned to do so on a lot of different fronts. And something we may want to consider is making a recommendation in that case that they pursue it as a separate authority, similar to what they do with the water department.
Okay, yeah. Let me go with
Where
that.
they can then bond for their own things. They have their own staff. They contract with the other municipalities, but it runs on a similar model to what was the old search program that the city of Albany was lead for trash and for the land and for the landfill for many years, where we handle we handle basically the nuts and bolts, and the surrounding communities pay in a certain fee but reap the benefit of it. So the good news with an approach like that is it may qualify us for more grant money at the Fed and state level, because we're proposing a truly regional solution to the problem, rather than just a one city by one city approach.
Yes.
So this may work out to the advantage of all. So something I want just the group to sort of think about and see how comfortable they'd be sort of throwing that shot across the bow. We can introduce the idea during the preliminary report and flesh it out if they like what they heard with the final report. But certainly some of the things I think Josh, you'd back me up on this, that we've been seeing with the benchmarking sites we've seen is that's a very common approach. Because most of the communities that we see that have this are much smaller, as we said, much smaller than the city of Albany. So they pursue sort of a group solution that provides for a lot of small towns that are next to each other, basically. Cumulatively, they're still smaller than the city of Albany. But I think the model is sound, particularly if we're talking an FTTH approach, which I believe we are, and a dark web and a dark web net. I mean a dark fiber network approach, which I also think makes the most sense for us, because you're promoting different firms to compete against each other to lower the rates, and at the same time getting the access to people that don't have the access now. It would give us the greatest flexibility to get a free or close to free line for lower income people. And that's really the goal here. Full connection across the board.
Yep, for as many people as possible.
Yes.
And just to piggyback off of that, I
Yeah.
know at some point you mentioned we would have a component where it will involve community feedback.
Yes.
Do you see that happening? Well, obviously at this point, after the preliminary report happening, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's good to have the meetings, but I think we want to go out there with something in hand and have something to share with the community ahead of those meetings. Particularly if we say this is a preliminary report based on what we have found doing research, but we want your feedback as to what you think is the best approach. I would expect we will get feedback. I would say that whether we go with just a city, just a city network or a countywide network, whichever the two it is, you're going to need a broad base of support from the city taxpayers, from town taxpayers. I just find that with that kind of thing, you're better with a choir than with a soloist making the pitch.
Mhm. And
And
how do you expect the community feedback to be facilitated? Like a
that's,
survey or in person?
I personally would prefer an in-person approach. The reason I say that is that surveys for the most part tend to get responses from those who are already inclined to weigh in on it anyway, or people that have the information already that they need to make a decision, not the people that need to hear about it. So, especially in an area that doesn't have the access, we really can't do an online survey because most of the people that we're trying to reach don't have access. The in-person stuff could be handled carefully because we're still in a pandemic. That's
Correct.
the reality. I think we can do it. I think it's going to be probably a series of smaller meetings than 3 or 4 large meetings, because you don't want to get that many people into a room because it's a health risk. But I do think it's possible. We can look at doing a survey at some point.
Mhm.
As I say, the challenge with that is getting it out and then getting it back. We don't have the money to mail it. That's a lot of mailing. And I doubt the city wants to expend money on that. They might, but they might not. You don't have the staff to go door to door. And as I say, the online, you'll get a response. The usual response rate to an online survey these days is about 11%, which is not a representative count for the city of Albany, certainly. I think you probably get a higher response rate out of the towns who already have broadband access in many cases. But again, these aren't lower income people that you want to be able to help. So there's the risk. From a research standpoint, it's very challenging.
Correct. Yes.
So I think
As I've seen a lot of city initiatives, they did not probably receive the type of feedback that they wanted.
Right. And I agree that that's a common problem. Well, it doesn't matter if it's policing or anything else. And policing is one of the ones we've tried to do the most with. But still, you see very limited response. That I can speak to personally because I've done it for 10 years now. And you do get a response, but it's very up and down. It's issue based from one to the next. And this, I really think we have a twofold role. One is to educate the public as to what it is we're talking about. And then the second is to get their feedback and what they think the benefit is and what they'd like to see it be. So to do that, focus group sessions are probably best. I would suggest for those, we may want to team up with the city council people for those areas because they have ties.
That's a good approach. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have ties to the neighborhood groups.
Exactly.
So we reach out, we do that sort of networking. We could make a presentation at one of the Cana meetings, which is all the neighborhood groups. I know that Zach, who's the president of Cana, would be more than willing to do that for us. And those are videoed and put up on the web. So it's a way to get the word out. And then we could also, if we do a survey, at least in part, or at least a quick, here are some things that you should know about this proposal. That can also be fed out through the neighborhood groups, through their respective email lists. So you get a wider So you get a widespread hit with the information that we want out there, whether it's here's the preliminary report, can you share this with your email list? Or here are some key points to keep in mind. So please send this out to your mail list. With an email address they could provide feedback to. So Jess, that would probably come through and you'd be sorting through a ton of email for us, just so you know.
Yeah, that's no problem.
But I think that is going to be part of our steps between the preliminary report and the final report. I think that's where we're going to see that being our biggest push. So we need to start to think about the channels that we use to do that.
Mhm.
You know, the idea is that the final report would be turned in to the council and the mayor, I believe early fall is what we agreed to. And then they make decisions from there, which the good news is would hit them just in time for the next city budget, season. So they could take it into consideration as a project for the coming year, which would work out well timing wise. The other advantage is that it's not a city election year, so no one has to worry about their job being out of the line, which is smart. Beyond that, so yeah, Dave, I think that's going to be a very important piece. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they wanted to bring up?
Oh, I sent you and Jeff the email, sorry, some while ago about the email address that's listed on the city website.
Okay. I vaguely recall it. Can you remind me what your question was?
Let me go. Okay, so under boards and commissions and the Commission on Municipal Internet Service,
Mhm.
there is an email address at albany.ny.gov. Is that something that's managed by the city IT department or something that you and Jeff have access to? Probably doesn't sound like.
I think that's through Jess. Jess, is that?
Yeah, so I believe I gave the email the Gmail. Is what's posted on there the albanyny.gov?
It's this email address. I just dropped it in the chat.
Yeah, that's not the Gmail address.
I can find out who has access to that email or change what's on the website to the Gmail if you'd like.
Yeah, if you can find out who has access to that, that'd be kind of good for us.
Because I was wondering what type of inquiries were probably being sent to that. Probably
yeah, that's not one that I've seen before.
I'm not aware of that email address either.
Yeah. So yeah, if we can find out what's going on with that, and I think depending on what the answer is, it might make sense to shift it to the Gmail address.
Okay, I can get an answer for you tomorrow.
Cool. I think at one point we had talked about setting up an official city email address for when we were benchmarking with other municipalities. So it might be that, but I wasn't aware that it had been done. So it could be that.
I don't think I made this page, so it was probably Sarah. I can talk to her and figure out where it came from, but I can talk to someone else and figure out who has access to that.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, and I can also look through my emails because I do vaguely remember something about this, but I don't remember who we gave access to or any of that. So I'll look through my emails to try to see what I can find. Yeah,
I think there was very early on, there was discussion if we were dealing with an external agency or someplace, a Gmail address doesn't necessarily say, hi, we're actually we're actually a real commission of the city of Albany. So I think the feeling was, let's create a city of Albany address that would forward to the Gmail address behind the scenes. But I'm not sure if that was ever done. I recall the conversation, but that's as far as it went. I think that was back in the fall, if I remember correctly.
Well, I'm glad it's in existence right now because now, like, if we ever do have to do FOIL requests, me look more legitimate instead of it
Absolutely.
just coming from our own personal emails.
Yeah, definitely would. And I think that was part of the reasoning. Was, for example, if I'm going to reach out to someone for research, I use my my university email address, because that says, hi, I'm actually with a university, as opposed to, hi, I'm Craig and I'm at Gmail. It's amazing the way you get treated differently with that. It's one of those little gatekeeper items, but so that's probably what that is. All right.
Okay, so depending on who's listed on the email, we may want to just forward it to the Gmail going forward
I think that makes
and
sense.
and get access to whatever emails might be sitting in there.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Luke. All right. All righty. Is there anything else? Okay, there's 2 buttons. All right. All right. Hearing nothing. That is actually all the items that I had for this week. Jeff, was there anything that you wanted to bring up? Any questions?
I think what we covered what I had earlier, Craig. Beyond that, just thank you for keeping this going and us moving along.
Yeah, that's the goal. I think we're at this point, we're a little more than a month out from when we have to present the draft. So, the other thing I was going to bring up, seeing as there's more of us here, some of us have expressed challenges with being able to do the Thursday night meetings. I'm fine with it. Jeff seems to be fine with it, I think. But I want to be sure that Thursday nights still work for all of you. I know as we get into the nice weather, sometimes there are things with family, little league games, whatever. So if you would prefer a different night, if we can find a night that works for everybody better, we could look to shift the meeting night. But I want to throw it to the group and see what you thought.
Thursday is still open and one of the best days of the week for me.
Okay, works for me. Jeff, you as well? Josh?
Yes, yeah, I'm good with Thursdays.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a little hard to make it for 5:30.
Okay.
It's not a huge problem. Like, I should be fine, but I don't know if anyone else has that problem. But
we could look at 6 if that makes sense to people. I mean, I'm fine one way or the other. Because usually we run about a half hour, and right now we're set up for 5:30 to 6:30. So if we started at 6, we go from 6 to 6:30. It's basically the same thing. But if that would give people more time to get back from work, sort of decompress a little bit from your day before you start into this, I'm fine with that idea.
I'm open to that as well.
Okay. All right. If that works for everybody, Martin, what's your take?
I mean, generally Thursdays work best for me, though there may be some days in which, I'm traveling for work and stuff like that, where it might not work for some days. But for the most part, Thursdays do work for me.
Okay. Would 6 o'clock work better?
It doesn't really make much of a difference to me. So.
All right. Let's do this. Let's plan on going with 6 o'clock. Jess, if you could make that adjustment.
Sure, I can switch that.
And then we'll sort of, that'll give us a little more flexibility, let people sort of, as I say, decompress a little bit. And we'll go from there. So for right now, we'll keep it to Thursday nights, starting at 6. And we'll see if we can get some things wrapped up across this next week. Jeff, if you could send me an email, let me know what works for you for us time to meet across the next week. I'm pretty flexible, especially now that school's wound down, which is great. So just pick a time that works for you during the day, during the evening, makes no difference to me.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. All right, if there's nothing further, I will accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Does anyone oppose? Hearing none, I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks very much, folks, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
All right,
All
bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Have a great night.
Night.
Thank you.